After all the market manipulation over the weekend, guess what? This morning, we opened up exactly where we closed on Friday. This is the hourly chart. What the hourly chart shows you that this is more or less where we closed on Friday. And after all the market manipulation of the weekend, we opened up here. And now the Bitcoin pump is continuing. And what I want to show you today is that this is actually a very, very, very healthy Bitcoin pump. There are a lot of naysayers, a lot of skeptics about whether the pump is real or not real. I'm going to actually show you data that shows that this is a very, very, very hectic pump. I think we need to quickly dig into why the pump is happening right now, why we got this extra green candle up. And the reason why that happened is actually very, very significant. It's because of Scott Bessent. And what Scott Bessent has basically done now, he's basically come onto the market via his advisors, and he's basically said the following. He said, we could tap the Treasury General account. We could tap the Treasury General account, which has about $1 trillion in it, to fund the bond buybacks, right? So this is an article from CNBC, which came out just before the market opened, because that's basically what you do just before the market opens. You basically talk up the market. And what they're saying now is that they could use the Treasury General account, which indeed does have $1 trillion in it, right? They could use the Treasury General account to buy back long-dated treasuries. Now, it's important that you understand what happens here, because this is what's putting fuel on the fire. It's not only Bitcoin, it's gold also. If you look at gold, I think gold went to 4,600 earlier on today, 4,700 almost, right? If you look at silver, silver is also absolutely pumping. The reason why all of these are pumping is because of this war that Scott Bessent is involved in with what they call bond vigilantes. Okay, so let me explain to you what's going on here, right? There are two sides to it. The one side is Scott Bessent and the government, and they have an objective. Their objective is to reduce the cost of long-term debt. And they do this by buying back their own debt. They do this also by talking up the market to tell people that they're going to buy back their own debt. On the other side of it is what they call bond vigilantes. Now, what is a bond vigilante? It's an investor who effectively punishment a government for fiscal or monetary policies that they think are irresponsible by selling bonds. Some of them sell bonds short and some of them sell bonds that are covered. But ultimately, it's a battle between the government and these bond investors or bond vigilantes, as I said. And they say when the government borrows too much cash, investors worry about inflation, debt sustainability, currency weakness. They sell government bonds. When they sell government bonds, the price falls. When the price falls, the yield rises. The government has to pay more to borrow the same amount of money. And that's what these bond vigilantes basically do. So the term bond vigilante was coined by 𝗙𝗘𝗅 in the 1980s. The idea is that when governments won't discipline themselves, the bond market does it for them. A famous recent example is under Liz Truss in 2022. Her government announced large unfunded tax cuts. The UK government bonds sold off violently. Yield surged, the pound fell, and market turmoil helped force a reversal of the fiscal plan. So, what's actually going on here? Right now, Scott Bessent is in a war with the bond vigilantes. Last week, he came out on CNBC. I think you guys remember this interview. And he said basically...
And of yields, you know, they've gone back the other way. We've erased most of the Treasury rally that you got yesterday with that big surprise. So how much more are you willing to do?
Well,
oh, man.
Again, we have a big toolkit, so we'll see. And part of it is signaling here and to show that we believe that the yields don't reflect the underlying fundamentals. This Iran conflict, we will get on the other side.
Let's look at this in sequence. The first thing is Scott Bessent announces that they're going to double down from buying $2 billion worth of long-dated treasuries to $4 billion worth of long-dated treasuries. As soon as he did that, the bond yields corrected, or the bond yields dropped. And then what happened was they started to rise again. And so what did he do? He went on to CNBC and he said, look, actually, we can do a lot more than double it. Our toolkit is very big and we will basically do whatever it takes. And the bond vigilantes strike back. And if you look at the bond yields, it's again edging up to the 5%, which is the magic 5% number. Now he comes out and says, actually, we even have $1 trillion in the Treasury General account. Now, this is the Treasury General account is a account that the Treasury has in case of emergencies. It's almost like the hidden wallet. He says, we've got $1 trillion in this account, and we're going to use this $1 trillion to buy long-dated Treasury yields. And so now, basically, there is a war between Scott Bessent and the bond vigilantes, and one of them is going to win. Now, you got to put your money as to who you think is going to win here, right? Because In the UK, against Liz Truss, the bond vigilantes won. They basically forced the UK government to do a turnaround on their fiscal policy. The question is whether Scott Bessent is going to do the same. And to this end, knowing who Scott Bessent is and knowing where he comes from the George Soros era, and he worked with Soros and Stan Druckenmiller and a whole lot of other really, really powerful people that have taken down currencies before. Honestly, I think that he is extremely powerful, and he's extremely set on getting the job done here. So right now, when you look at the market is betting on the fact that Scott Bessent is actually going to continue to do whatever it takes to beat the bond vigilantes. At the end of it, one of them is what's going to happen is that either the bond vigilantes are right and the US government is going to capitulate, or they're going to get destroyed. Their shorts are going to get destroyed. They're going to lose a lot of money on the bonds. That's basically how this battle ends. In the meantime, it's causing a great pump for the Bitcoin price. Like we were as high as 79,400 not so long ago. We're now back at 78,900 or 78,800. The markets have just opened. And all in all, this is causing a very healthy pump for Bitcoin, right? First of all, it's the 1st August. Currently, Bitcoin's up, I think, 20-something% in August. Let's actually just be a little bit more accurate. So if you look at it's up 23.35%. And if it closes green, it would be the first positive August during a midterm election year, which is, I mean, already we were expecting a bad August. This is going to give us the first positive green. I'll be honest. When this thing started, it started out as a short squeeze. But now it's not a short squeeze anymore. Now it's a healthy rally with healthy momentum behind it. And this is really important that you pay attention here. So it started off as a short squeeze. Here's a short squeeze. The thing is, if you look at the open interest now on Bitcoin, this is the number of positions that are short here, that are long or short. The leverage has gone down. The reason why the leverage has gone down is because the shorts have now been liquidated and the leverage is now at more reasonable, healthy levels. So if the shorts have been liquidated and the longs were liquidated this weekend, basically, ultimately, what started off as a short squeeze is now a healthy rally. And I want to show you some more things about this healthy rally. 20% candles on Bitcoin don't happen often. But when they do happen, there's people that have looked at what happens after a 20% weekly candle in the last 15 years. So the average says that the next day, which is today, Bitcoin will go up 3.5%. Bitcoin is up 1.13%. It was up as much as 3.5% a few minutes ago. 2 days, 4.1%. 7 days, 8.3%. 14 days in 2 weeks, an extra 17%, 21 days, an extra 20%, and 8 weeks, an average 36.5%. So what this is telling you is that every time, well, not every time, but most times that Bitcoin has had a 20% candle in a week, ultimately that momentum continues. If you want to see what that looks like on a chart, that's what that looks like on a chart. When you get the 20%ers, generally the chart continues to go up, right? So it shows that generally when we get these bullish momentum candles, they lead into more momentum, right? So again, we had a 20% candle here, and they lead into further momentum. So that's the one data point that we have to work with. The RSIs on Bitcoin are very high. So you can see the RSIs on the daily on Bitcoin. And for those of you who don't know what RSIs are momentum indicators. They show you the momentum of the market. Right now, the RSI on the daily is very heated on Bitcoin. It's not to say that it hasn't been this heated before. If you go to this level over here, what you can see is that here, just after a big pump, the RSI was very high. But we continued for another 25% and another 33 days after the RSI, before the RSI basically started to cool off, right? So in this case, a high RSI is actually a good thing. Why is it a high RSI? It's a high RSI because, why is it a good thing? Because it's brought back more momentum into the markets. It's brought back more life, more testosterone into the markets, which is a good thing. This is a chart that I also want you to pay attention to. You see this red section over here? That's what you call the Coinbase premium or negative, positive or negative premium. What you can see is that the Coinbase premium, which shows that in the United States, the big institutions have been net sellers over net buyers. What you can see is that has been negative for a long period of time. However, when it turns positive, generally, look what happens. Generally, when it turns positive, that gives you increasing momentum for a pump. Now, if you zoom in a lot, because you really have to zoom in to see this, but it's actually just turned. So I'm going to zoom in right here. You have to really zoom in to see it. So it's basically turned. You can hardly see it over there, but it's basically turned. The ETFs are back. Last week, the ETFs bought $2 billion worth of Bitcoin. So again, price goes up, price is the best marketing, and then the number actually follows. Now, I want to reiterate that this entire move has been made without Saylor at all. So this is a great tweet. It basically says, Saylor bought no Bitcoin during the largest Bitcoin move since the election week in 2024. The prior two plus 20% weeks, he bought 12,000 and 79,000 Bitcoin into them. Since July, every single large price move ended. Since July 2024, every single large price move ended 3 months higher on plus 30%. So imagine that all of this is without Saylor in the market. In fact, not even without Saylor in the market. Actually, with Saylor being a net seller into the market, right? And that's exactly what happened. He basically announced this week that they bought 0 Bitcoin. They bought 0 Bitcoin, and what they've done is they've increased their reserves by $6.68 billion. They must have now probably two years worth of dividend cover in cash right now. In my mind, pretty silly move from Saylor. I mean, he literally sold the bottom and he's going to start buying the top. But that's the kind of buyer that Saylor is. Saylor is exactly this buyer over here. Let me actually zoom out and show you exactly where the Saylor, where Saylor becomes a buyer. So if you look at all these Coinbase premiums, you can see that first the price goes up and then the premium goes positive and it creates momentum. That's exactly what Saylor basically does. He's not the guy that starts the move, or he can't be the guy that starts the move. But once the move starts, MicroStrategy becomes in a healthier position. And when MicroStrategy gets into a healthier position, there's a good chance that STRC will peg sometime soon, right? Now, bear in mind that Saylor bought a whole lot of STRC this week. You can see it over here on 247 Newswire. Saylor repurchased 136 million worth of STRC stock. Now, by my calculation, Saylor has spent about $1.8 billion now, increasing his reserve and buying STRC, which means that when it repegs, he better buy over $1.8 billion worth of Bitcoin. If he doesn't, then actually this whole exercise of trying to get STRC back to par has actually been completely futile. So all this has happened without Saylor. He's now back in the market, or he will be back in the market if we repeg. Just by the way, guys, again, I encourage you to follow 247 Newswire. And the reason why, it's a free Twitter site. It is the fastest newswire on the planet, I think. Just look at that. That's when the Saylor news was announced. Are you okay there, bro? No. Okay. It is the fastest. I mean, the second competitor was 10 seconds slower than us in posting this kind of news. It's, yeah, the handle is @247 Newswire, @247wire. Just go and follow that account. Really, there's a lot of news that actually comes out. There's actually a lot of news that actually comes out about it. Well, I see Bitcoin has retraced slightly. I would imagine that has something to do with the US 10-year Treasury yield. Let's have a look here. No, slightly. All right, let's carry on. Here. The other thing that you need to look at is the 200-day moving average. So if you look at Bitcoin and the 200-day moving average, Bitcoin has a weird relationship with the 200-day moving average. Let me actually put it up here so you can actually see it. That is the 200-day moving average. That's the Bitcoin chart on the daily. That's the 200-day moving average. If you zoom out and you look historically at what Bitcoin has done, what you'll realize is that here, Bitcoin had the whole bear market and never tested the 200-day moving average until the new bull market began, right? So once it broke through the 200-day moving average, it had a little ride over here. But previously, every single time that it breaks above the 200-day moving average, that's the time when the bull market starts, and it doesn't actually go back and retest it, right? And so now we've broken through the 200-day moving average, which is a great sign for momentum. Great sign for momentum. I see the market is coming down slightly now. I wonder if there's anything in the newsroom. Let's have a look here and just see if there's anything in the newsroom. Could this be because of tariffs in Canada? Probably not. All right, let's carry on. The MACD. So if you look at the MACD, there has been a MACD crossover. When you look at the MACD crossover, every time we get that MACD crossover, generally, that is just after a pump and in the beginning of a sustained pump. So I think what I'm trying to show you here is that, yes, there are a lot of naysayers. There are a lot of people who missed the pump. And those who missed the pump are quite salty. They're trying to tell you, oh, no, this is a fake. It's a dead cat bounce. It's a bear market rally. And you know what? It may be. But the data is showing you that it's probably not. And it's probably a sustained rally, right? And I mean, a lot of people have been asking me, I missed this Bitcoin run. And I want to know whether I should buy now or wait. The question is how long you're going to be holding for. So if you're buying for a trade for a week or 2 weeks, don't buy now. Like, there's no point in buying now after a 20% candle. There's no point in buying for a week or so. But if you're buying in the long term, if you're buying for your buy and hold bags, and you look at what generally happens after we break the 200-day moving average. Let me show you here. The 200-day moving average. Generally, the pumps are actually sustained. And so people actually don't believe the pump. They get left behind. And you know what? We may get a 10% correction. But the question is, do we get a 10% correction from 80, from 85, from now? We don't know. And that's why, if I were you, I'd say the risk reward of starting to DCA and now is much better than being sidelined at the moment. Yes, you may not get the cheapest price, but you've already missed the pump up from 60,000. And you know, I'm busy on chat groups here where I'm talking to a lot of people that have basically missed the pump here. All right, let's talk about the altcoins, because there's been something good in the altcoins as well. So we've had a golden cross on ETH BTC. So we've had a golden cross over there. And you can see that the last time we had a golden cross, we did very well on ETH BTC. We just had the golden cross again. Now, that means that, I mean, generally, that's a very bullish sign on ETH BTC. It means that in the next part of the market, we expect ETH to outperform Bitcoin, which means, in a nutshell, that we expect altcoins to outperform Bitcoin, which is, I mean, that's why we're here, right? So right now, there has been that golden cross. That's the, I'm not going to look at the 1 hour, no, at the 1 hour. But yeah, there has been a golden cross on the ETH BTC chart. So let's wait and see what happens on this chart. What's encouraging for me about the ETH BTC chart is not the golden cross. Yes, the golden cross is very, very, very good for me, but it shows me, it's encouraging for me to see that there is this downtrend that ETH BTC has been on since 2017. And it looks like we've broken out of that downtrend. Now, if we shoot up here, what this means for me is that this cycle is an altcoin cycle more than it is a Bitcoin cycle. From 2017, there's always been this very, very, very strong rejection level that we haven't been able to cross, where ETH hasn't had a use case. Altcoins never really had a use case, but now things are changing. And I think that if we get into a situation where this pumps up, what it's telling us is that the altcoins are probably going to outperform Bitcoin in the cycle. And that's pretty much my thesis. My thesis is that Bitcoin will do really well this cycle, but there will be a bunch of altcoins that really outperform Bitcoin, and that really outperform Bitcoin. Now, the bubbles were very, very, very green. 𝗙𝗘𝗘𝗏 was very green today. Reason why it was very green today, I told you yesterday that I'm buying 𝗙𝗘𝗏. I said I was buying it because I think it's a beta play to Hyperliquid. And the reason why I said yesterday, I said, if Hyperliquid is going to be the most regulated perps DEX in the world, and they're trying to get into the US, and Trump basically said that, they're going to face some hurdles along the way. I don't think it's going to be like automatically you just get accepted. And so I think every time that happens, people are going to say, okay, well, Hyperliquid's got hurdles. Who's the benefactor if Hyperliquid doesn't get in it? And right now, 𝗙𝗘𝗏 has positioned themselves as the most compliant DEX in the United States. I don't know what, I mean, it was completely coincidental that we got upbit listing for 𝗙𝗘𝗏 today. So they were listed on upbit, and then that gave us the normal upbit pump. But I think definitely keep an eye on 𝗙𝗘𝗏, because I really think that when they face the headwinds in the US, when 𝗙𝗘𝗏 face headwinds in the US, which they will, because it's not a straight path with the US. You know, you got to look at the US's negotiating tactics. The US's negotiating tactics say, we first give you a hard time, block you, show you how bad the tariffs actually are, and then we negotiate with you. And that's what they may do to Hyperliquid. So, yeah, and when that happens, I think 𝗙𝗏𝗏 will be the beneficiary. Some bad news on 𝗬𝗎, but funny enough, not really reflected in the chart. I've been trying to get hold of the 𝗬𝗎 team. I'm going to try again after the show. and I'll report the guys in front runners. I'll report to you guys around what I'm doing here. But there was an announcement that 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is going to end support for 𝗬𝗏. Like 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is one of the biggest distribution networks for 𝗬𝗏. It's like the biggest distributing wallet for 𝗬𝗏. Why is it doing that on my tweet, where my tweet is like hidden by the... I also don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so 𝗬𝗏 is ending support for 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is ending support for 𝗬𝗏, which means that you won't be able to trade 𝗬𝗏 out of your 𝗏𝗏𝗏 wallet. Which I expected that when that happens, the price of 𝗬𝗏 actually drop a lot more. And to be honest, I had a long on 𝗬𝗏 and I closed it long, just because I had a thesis. that 𝗬𝗏 would catch up to have a catch up bump. It did. It got to 96 cents over here, 95.5 cents, and then it dumped again. It dumped again because of the market manipulation. And now without 𝗏𝗏𝗏, I'm like, where are you going to get the same amount of distribution? It just sounds weird that they're not going to have it. I'll find out more about why that's actually happened. Let's talk about, so the pump is a healthy pump. Yes, we will have a retrace at some point. Yes, it's going to, it might chop over here. It's not going to be a straight line back to $100,000. You didn't expect that, but it is right now showing all signs of being a healthy pump. There is a big week this week, and I think we need to just watch out for a couple of things this week. Specifically, the biggest thing that I want you guys to watch out for this week is I want you guys to watch out for NVIDIA earnings. So we've got NVIDIA earnings on Wednesday. You got PCE inflation on Wednesday, US GDP data on Wednesday, and NVIDIA earnings on Wednesday. The PCE inflation data, I think we kind of know what's going to happen there. It's going to cool down slightly. The GDP data on Wednesday, I don't think it's such a big news story, but the NVIDIA earnings, what they could do if NVIDIA don't beat expectations is they could send the market down. And if the market goes down, watch out on your Bitcoin positions. If NVIDIA do report good earnings and they meet the earnings expectations, if they do meet the earnings expectations are absolutely absurd. Like I don't remember what the numbers are. Here the numbers are. The earnings expectation for 2020. I don't remember for this quarter specifically, but the earnings expectations them are so high that ultimately it's going to be quite it's going to be tough for them to beat. But I think they will beat it. If they don't, just watch out, because Wednesday is a very dangerous day on the market. That really could be a very dangerous day. What else? I did add one more thing yesterday. For those of you who watched our show yesterday, and I had the rules. The 9 rules. I just kind of figured that 9 rules wasn't really cool, so I added a 10th rule, and I think the 10th rule is actually probably the most important rule of all. And what it is, it says don't put off time with your loved ones for profits in the market, because the opportunities will always be there, but I don't know if your loved ones will always be there. And I think it's like, I can tell you that there's been multiple cycles where, I stayed on a Saturday, and maybe instead of spending time with the family, I was trading or just sitting there watching charts, just because of dopamine. And then you kind of realize that, like, there's so many opportunities in crypto. They come back every single day. Every time you come back, there's another opportunity. And I think the one thing that we don't get the opportunity for is to spend time with our loved ones. So I added in rule number 10, and I published this on my Twitter, and I said, don't put off time with your loved ones for profits in the market. The opportunities will always be there. Your loved ones probably won't. Hopefully they will be, but probably won't. What else? A couple of things. Number one, so we're going to take in another 200 members into 247 Research or Front Runners. This is where we post all of our trades. I just posted this trade over here yesterday. 𝗏, looking for the breakout on 𝗏. So we're going to take in 200 more members, and then we're going to close it, and then it's going to be on a 1 member leave, 1 member come back, 1 member leave, 1 member and then we're going to close it. That's the link over there. It is $99 for the first month. $99 for the first month, I think it's that. Try it for a month. If you don't like it, then just write me an email and I will give you your money back. There is a link over there to do it. Also, while I'm here, 2 things. One is BTCC have got that 10% deposit bonus. How it works is you deposit money into BTCC. Whatever you deposit, you get a 10% deposit bonus, right? So you get a $1,000 position plus a 10% deposit bonus. So in other words, you put in $10,000, you get $1,000. You trade the $1,000, you withdraw your $10,000. Pretty much, it's pretty simple. All right, lastly, this is TXFlow. TXFlow is a decentralized perp stakes like Hyperliquid. I keep telling you guys that it's the only one where the points haven't started yet. And if you trade now, it accrues towards your points and you get the highest points multiple. I've loaded up $10,000 into my account here. From tomorrow, I'm going to trade the $10,000 live with you in the account. Okay, so I've got $10,000 in my account. How do you see your balance here, I wonder? Because I know I put $10,000 in. Yeah, 99999. Okay, I lost 20 cents. Man, I'm already down 20 cents. I haven't started trading it. So I'm going to be trading on TXFlow with this $10,000. There's a link below. Use the link below. You get a, I think you get 0 fees or 5% off your trading fees, and then you get a boost on your points if you use the link. Use the link. Use the code. Tomorrow we start trading on TXFlow. All the assets that we trade are basically here. Literally, every asset that we trade is here. You can go long, you can go short, 10x, 20x, whatever your multiple is, you can actually do it. What else? See, I'm looking at the newsroom. Not actually much going on. Looks like Bitcoin's actually starting to come back now. Silver is 78,500. 78,500. What is Frontrunner? So it used to be called Frontrunner. It's now called 247 Research. Okay, it's the name of our Discord. It's a private Discord where myself and my analysts hang out. That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. You can see we've got all these channels: Runs, Birdie Calls, Alex's Alpha, Andre's Desk, Naz's Nest, Paolo's Picks, the Research Repository. Lucky has his own channel. He trades here all the time. So this is where we trade all day, every day. Remember, we can't be live on YouTube all day long. We can't be live on YouTube. So when we take trades, we actually we take them here in the Discord. It's a limited group. We want to keep it relatively small and tight, and work with like-minded people. And that's exactly, I think, what we're going to do. We're going to take on 200 more people, and then we're going to close it for until people leave, and then we'll add in more people. Anything else? Zcash. We spoke about Zcash yesterday and around the ETF announcement. There's an ETF that starts trading tomorrow on Zcash, which I think is big news. All right, my friends. Tomorrow, I think what we'll do is we'll do a portfolio show. I want to show you what my portfolio looks like at the entry to the bull market. I want to show you what I'm sitting on. A lot of you have asked me, so I'm going to show you the portfolio tomorrow. I'm not going to show you any more today. I'm not going to show you any more today. You know what they call this? Just a tip. Just the tip. See? Just the tip. See? Just the tip. See? Anyway, we'll look at it tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll do a full portfolio. I'll show you what the portfolio is that I'm going into the bull market with. Anything else, artists? Would you like to say something?
Subscribe if you haven't.
You subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I see it's 200 likes. So many viewers and 200 likes. See you guys again tomorrow. Until then, trade well, my friends.